Hey, science peeps, this is Miss CG back again for another installment of our science walkthroughs. Today is Tuesday. So for today's activity, this walkthrough will be for my periods 2, 3, and 5, 6 for Tuesday. Period 8, 9, you should be watching this and doing these activities for Wednesday, May 27th. Okay. So let's begin. We're going to start by talking about how certain traits are passed from parent to offspring. We only have two activities to complete here on pages 138 and 139. There's a short video to watch and then a group lab. Okay, so quick activity today. So if you want to go to your Google Classroom, okay, you're going to go to this one, okay, under chapter 5. So it's May 26th through 29th, chapter 5. And then on the side here, you're going to take a look and you're going to find the activity that says the chapter 5, lesson 1 workbook activities. Okay, right here. And that's it. Just these two to do today. Okay. So let's start by going to the workbook. I'm actually going to start on page 137 because I just want to give you a little background information, and then we'll do our two activities. So it says the sex chromosomes are one of the 23 pairs of chromosomes that we have in each body cell. The sex chromosomes carry genes that determine a person's sex as being either male or female. And they also carry genes that determine other traits. So this is an actual picture. This is an X chromosome and this is a Y chromosome. So the X chromosome is much larger than the Y chromosome. And if you have an X and a Y, that means you're male. Here is a picture. These are two X chromosomes. And if you have two X's, that means you're a female. So this is not one of your activities, so you don't have to write this down. But I just want to show you, start here because we have to know about the X and the Y chromosomes to do our first activity. So what is the probability that a child that two people have will be a boy or a girl? Well, we all know it's 50-50, but I'm actually going to show this to you in a Punnett square. Okay, so I'm going to go to my handy canvas. I'm going to draw a Punnett square. Okay, so we have, remember, the male goes on the top of the Punnett square. So we have an X and a Y for dad, and then an X and an X for mom. So what's the likelihood that you'll have an XY or an XX? Okay, so we bring our X down. We bring that X over. We bring our Y down. We bring this X over. Okay, we bring this X down. We bring this X over. We bring that X over, and we bring that Y down. So how many boxes have X, X? 2 boxes, so that's 50%. And how many boxes have X, Y? Oops. 2 boxes, so that's 50%. 50 plus 50 equals 100, so our percentage works out. So that's just the Punnett square version of why it's 50-50. Okay, it's a 50-50 chance. So remember, if you have one Y chromosome, okay, that means you're male. And if you lack that Y, well, the only other combo is going to be 2 X's, and that means that you are female. Okay, so let's go back to the workbook. And we're going to go and start our activities on page 138. Okay, let's read a little bit here at the top. So genes found on the X and the Y chromosomes are often called sex-linked genes because their alleles are passed from the parent to the child on these X and Y chromosomes. So the traits controlled by sex-linked genes are often called sex-linked traits. And so one of these that's carried on the X chromosome is color blindness. Now you can see here in this picture, here's the smaller Y chromosome, and it only has one allele on it. Here's the X chromosome, and look at all these different alleles. So the X chromosomes carry a lot more variation a lot more chances of, of different traits on that. Okay. So color blindness is actually carried on the X chromosome. Okay. So now, like other genes, sex-linked genes can have dominant and recessive alleles. Okay. So females, a dominant allele on the X chromosome will mask a recessive allele on the other X chromosome. But a male only has one X chromosome. So if you have one of each, and there is a recessive gene here for color blindness, well, then you're going to be colorblind, okay? Because you only have this one X. This Y doesn't matter because there's only that color blindness gene isn't carried on the Y. Now, if you're a female and you have two of these big X chromosomes and you have color blindness allele on one, but a normal vision allele on the other, you're not colorblind. You're a carrier for it on the one X, but because you have two X's, you have two chances, okay, for females. So you would have to have that color blindness gene on both the X's in order for a female to be colorblind. So while the color blindness trait is linked to the X chromosome, the female chromosome, and while it's linked to the X, the female X chromosome, you'll see more males with color blindness because they only have one X. So if just one of their X's has that color blindness gene, they're colorblind. And we're going to do this first activity. So it says most colorblind individuals have difficulty seeing red and green. So for people who are colorblind, they have to memorize on a traffic light because it's red, yellow, green. The position of the light. Otherwise, they could get into an accident. So, if you are colorblind, okay, you won't be able to see one of these. And I have had students in the past that weren't able to see the second one. So it says, write the number you see in the space below each circle. So, what number do you see in this first circle? Now it's red and blue, so you should be able to see this even if you are colorblind. And the number is 12. Now, if you are colorblind, we have green, the numbers in green, and the background is in red. So you may not be able to see this. And the number that's here is 74. Okay, so we have 12 and we have 74. 12 and 74. That's it for that figure 5. Now we're going to move on to figure 6. Okay. Moving along as we load. Okay. So color blindness is a trait controlled on the X chromosome. And like we said, many more males than females have it because it's on that they only have one X, whereas females have two X's. A carrier is a person who has one recessive allele for the trait and one dominant allele. So we've talked about this word in the past when we talked about Punnett squares. The carrier can pass the recessive allele to his or her offspring. And in the case of sex-linked traits, only females can be carriers because they are the only ones who carry two alleles for the trait. So this is why it's passed through our mother's chromosomes, but you have more males who show colorblindness. Females can have it, but more males have it because they only have one X. So they have more likelihood of having it, whereas females have to inherit two X's. All right, so using the parent's information, so using this information here and this key up here, we're going to complete this Punnett square. So complete the Punnett square by filling in the child's genotype, sex, and phenotype for each child. Draw the correct shape and color, and color it in because we don't have to color it in. So really for number 1, you're just going to watch me do the Punnett square, and you're going to be writing down numbers 2 and 3 for figure 6 in your activity. Okay, so C means carrier, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, capital C means it's the healthy, normal vision, okay? Capital C. And the lowercase c is a carrier. So let's do our Punnett square here. Okay. So here's our Punnett square. Okay, we have, let's watch my drawing skills here. X with, great, now more letters to write, capital C. Y, we don't write a capital or a lowercase c with the Y because it's not carried on the Y chromosome. So here we have our X, capital C, that's the normal color vision. And then we have our X, and this is where you're the carrier, the little c. Okay, so now let's do our Punnett square. We bring this capital X down with the big C, this X with the big C. So here we have a female with two capital C's. That means they have normal color vision. Okay, so that first one, this first female is born with normal color vision, not a carrier. So now we bring this X over with a capital C, this Y down. So this is a boy. He has on his X chromosome a capital C. He does not have color blindness. It's the capital, it's the dominant allele. So now let's do our next one. This X with a capital C, and then this X over, but now we have the little c. Okay, so here we have another female. Remember, it's a 50-50 chance, so we know we're going to have a boy here. Now, this is a female who is a carrier. Does she have color blindness? No, because she has that capital, that dominant color allele for normal color vision, but she's a carrier for color blindness, just like her mother was. Her mother was a capital C, lowercase c. All right, now let's do this one. We have an X with a lowercase c, and then a Y. I think I can do better with that. I'm going to scratch that out and do the little c. Okay, so now there's a boy. He's born, and he has the lowercase c, the color blindness gene on that X chromosome. So what are the odds that you're going to have, first of all, a healthy seeing female? Both females, even though she's a carrier, have normal color vision because they both have this capital C. So every female born from this cross will have normal vision. How about the boys? Well, we have one XY that has normal vision and one boy XY that is colorblind. So out of the boys, if you have a boy, then there's a 50-50 chance that the boy is going to be colorblind. Okay, so now let's go back to our activity. So that was our first one, our Punnett square. What is the probability that this couple will have a colorblind child? So not boy, but colorblind child. Okay, so we have capital X, okay, so that is normal vision, that's 25. Okay, another girl, I'm not sure why I'm writing that. I'm trying to break it down. So our girls with normal vision, we're going to nix that for right now. So our girls with normal vision, so with the capital C, that's what we're going to do. That's a 50% for girls, right? Boys with the capital C, right? That's 25%. So together that makes 75. And that just leaves, with that little c gene, 25%. So 75 plus 25, that's 100. So what's the chance that you're going to have a child? These two will have a child with normal vision, 75%. So on your activity, you're going to write for number 2, 75%. And we're going to do number 3. Okay. Let's go back to our activity. Okay. What allele combination would a daughter need to inherit to be colorblind? Okay, so what allele combination would a daughter need to inherit to be colorblind? Okay, so the only way that a girl will be colorblind if she has two recessive alleles for color blindness. So her father would have to be colorblind, and her mother would have to both be colorblind, or the mother would have to be a carrier. So we can do a bunch of different Punnett squares for this, but in order for a girl to inherit that color blindness trait, you'd have to have dad who is colorblind. I'm trying to do my little c there. And mom would either have to be lowercase c, or in the very least, a carrier, little c. So then if she inherits, she'll be inheriting that X with the little c from dad and that X with the little c from mom. And so she would be colorblind. Now, if both parents were colorblind, watch this. Little c. I really can't do this. This is so hard. X, little c. And now, here's the boys. X, little c, Y, X, little c, Y. So if two parents who are colorblind have children, every single one of their children will be colorblind. If you have a father who's colorblind and a mother who is just, this is going to be a capital now, just a carrier, okay? So that means that this will be a capital C and this will be a capital C now. That'll be lowercase. That means they'll have a 50-50 chance of their daughters being colorblind and their sons being colorblind. If mom is not colorblind and is not a carrier, okay, there is a 0% chance that any child will be colorblind. So depending on the combination. Okay, so we can go back and forth with these all day. So what allele combination would the daughter have to have? She would have to have an X and then a C, and then an X and a lowercase c. That's the only way that you could be colorblind. If she had an X with a capital C, not colorblind. So that's the only way. X lowercase c, X lowercase c. Okay, so that's it for those workbook activities. Let's go back here. What I want you to do is watch this short video about traits, and then you're going to go to this Google Doc, okay? And it's about dominant and recessive traits in a population. So how do you tell if a trait is dominant or recessive? If the trait appears the most often in a population, you could pretty much assume it's dominant. And the ones that appear rarely or least often are recessive. So right-handedness, most people are right-handed. That's not a right-handed. That's the dominant trait. Left-handed people, less, and that is the recessive trait. So you're going to click on this right here, and I have it up already, and it come up to this. So if you read anything here, just read what's in color. So it says, I'd like our science class to contribute to the below data table. All information you write here is anonymous, so please do not write your names. You're going to look at the traits below in these pictures, and I have a data table here, okay, that attach earlobes and free earlobes, dimples present, dimples absent, okay, so on and so forth. We'll go over these in a moment. If you have the trait, I want you to put a 1 in the box. That's kind of like where it's like a hash mark, okay, for that trait. You're only going to fill in 1 box per color, okay? So there's 2 red boxes. You're only putting your 1 in one of these 2 red boxes. You're only putting your 1 in one of these 2 orange boxes, okay? So on and so forth. So take a look at your earlobes if you're not sure what you have. Attached earlobes, it looks like they're kind of glued to your face. And then free earlobes, they have a loop. So depending on what you are, you're going to put a 1 here or a 1 in that box, okay? Same thing, now go to your dimples, okay? But remember, you just put your 1 in 1 box, okay? I'm going to delete that because I did mine here. These are my traits, okay? Look at dimples, okay? We're gonna look at dimples by your cheeks, okay? Not your chin yet, just the cheeks. So when you smile, if you have dimples, okay, you're gonna put your mark here. If you don't have dimples, then you put your mark here, dimples absent. And now let's go to cleft chin. If you have a dimple in your chin, okay, if you have a cleft, you put it here. If you don't have a cleft, you leave it blank, okay? Straight hairline. So if you look at your hairline, you have to look in the mirror. If you have just a regular curve hairline, that's called a straight hairline. If you have like a little where it looks like this and it comes to a point, that's called a widow's peak. So depending on what you have, you either put it under straight or widow's peak. Pinkies, when you hold your pinkies up next to each other, do they line up or are they crooked when you line them up next to each other? So you're going to do straight or crooked. And then hitchhiker's thumb. I'm sorry, your thumb. If when you hold your thumb up, if it sits up straight and it points up to the ceiling, you have a straight thumb. If it leans back, and there's different degrees of it being backward, okay, that's in the middle. I've seen some people go way back and some just a little bit back. Mine goes a little bit back. Then you have a hitchhiker's thumb. Okay, so that's how you complete this table. And then based on this data, it should be that where we have the most amount of hash marks, that would be the dominant gene, or the dominant trait. I know which one of these are dominant. I'm not going to tell you yet. I just want to see how we do with our chart. And that's it for today. I hope you had fun doing this lab, and I will see you next time. Bye. CG out.